And welcome to Super Week TV 2025. This is an episode that I'm really looking forward to, and this is all about core metrics for brands, so from the top level down. And today I have a great panel of agency folk. I have Jenn, Elena, and Robert. And I'll get you guys to introduce yourselves. I mean, Jenn, we haven't spoken before, so please tell, apart from 5 minutes ago.
Right.
So please give us a bit of your background.
I'm Jenn Kunz. I am an analytics architect, I think technically, but I primarily work on the data collection side of analytics and MarTech and all of that. I've been in the industry since 2006, based out of Atlanta, Georgia.
And you're kind of like a solo worker, or you work with a team?
No, I'm at an agency, 33 Sticks. We're a boutique, small. There's only 5 of us.
Nice.
And very niche, analytics and optimization. Very focused on those 2 things. So.
Yeah, thank you. And Elena?
I'm Elena Nesi. I come from Italy. I am a senior analytics architect and team lead at Monks. I also take care of data collection, but I dabble a little bit in everything, data analysis, visualization, a little bit of data engineering as well. And I worked mostly with the consultancy agencies, but also at times in brands.
And 2024 winner of the Golden Punch Card, is that correct?
That's true.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Such an honor to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And Robert, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you. I'm Robert Petkovic from Croatia. I'm actually right now a key events manager and conversion whisperer in my own company. So far, I've been in the industry for, 3 decades or so. I've been a developer, been in several agencies, and then I figured out a couple of years that people usually want to work with me, no matter which agency I am at. So that's why I'm solo for the past 3 or 4 months. Finally, I quit. Yeah. So I'm a solo consultant for many brands, many agencies as well, and I'm trying to, push my personal brand. I'm the guy for analytics in Balkans area, so that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm talking about like core metrics for brands, we're talking about, Super Week is fantastic because colleagues get together within the analytics industry, in the machine room of data, if you want to call it that. But ultimately, we're servicing a brand. So there are stakeholders that may not be at this event. So my question is, of discussion is, we're looking at a brand and core metrics, and we'll just go around. What would be a core metric for a brand at a top level that you would look at? It's a very broad question, but if we're going to say we needed a dashboard for C-level to keep them attuned, what are some of the things that you would look at to have in that?
It's a standard consultant answer, but it depends, obviously, a lot on the brand. I miss the days when I worked primarily with e-commerce because it was so much more obvious that money, just revenue spent online. And I do still work with some e-commerce, but particularly working with the website, there are some organizations where the website can be a bit detached from those North Star core metrics that I work with a company right now that the website basically exists for lead generation, but it's a very long sales cycle and it's very hard to tie back to the website. So yes, helping the company figure out their core metrics, which may or may not have anything to do with, directly to do with user experience on the website, and trying to tie those together can be very tricky.
So to summarize the answer, it's almost like the need for putting in a workshop.
Yes, absolutely.
On a brand by brand basis.
But it's
what is your North Star and what are your core metrics? Yeah.
It's not something that can be arrived at very quickly or externally, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. What about for you, Elena, in terms of if you're dealing with the top level of a brand, where would you start on the core metrics? Yeah.
I agree 100% with Jenn that it depends, and a workshop, it's a wonderful idea to really get the context from the C-level directly. If I had to mention 3, I would say customer lifetime value and revenue and profit. And I would also add that sometimes it depends not only on the business, but it also depends on the specific stage or goal of the C-level at that moment. For instance, I once had a client that was more concerned with revenue than with profit, because they wanted to demonstrate that the product could generate revenue, and they were not interested in profit just yet. It was something for a future stage.
Yeah. So I mean, revenue doesn't necessarily mean growth if you're looking at the actual what the company's bottom line earning, right? But that also might be a part of a tactical part of the strategy. It sounds like it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Great. Robert, your thoughts?
Well, of course, customer lifetime value, that's it. But the thing is, people usually, or brands usually approach me as, are you able to set up the analytics the right way, or we're losing constant signals, can you do the fix? I always demand a workshop after that, a workshop on data analysis, so that they know what they can get. And then I could figure out which metrics, dimensions they actually need. And I usually insist on, okay, revenue, lifetime value. But if I work with, I don't know, publisher, I ask, okay, what's your weekly retention rate? Let's work on that. For e-commerce website, I always ask, okay, how many times a year do you think your customers should come to buy something for your website? How many times a month should they come just to see what's there new? And just to reshape the way they think, because I think the ideal dashboard for any client is a personalized dashboard with 2 charts, 1 table, and maybe 2 metrics for each stakeholder. And it's a process that may take a few months to get to the ideal dashboard. And always ask what's the metric that your boss will get the bonus at the end of the year for. Because if you're helping them get the bonus raise, then they will listen to you.
Yep, absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, one metric I spent a couple of years at AC Nielsen in the early 2000s, and we had this big, the big topic was brand equity. And how do you measure a brand equity? Well, you don't know what a brand is worth until it's sold. That was the joke. But how do you compare brand for brand? Is this a metric that you've kind of often has come across your way in the machine room of things? How do you measure the value of an overall brand from a competitive space?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it's been directly. I mean, certainly it's always a thing that, and as folks do competitive analysis and figure out the best way forward and what growth looks like and all of that. But I don't know, for me personally, I don't know that brand equity has come, and that may very well be because of some of the silos that exist within orgs. My primary stakeholders are often fairly far removed from the folks who are at the top talking about brand equity and things like that. So trying to figure out how to tie the day-to-day, in the weeds things to those bigger discussions and get into those discussions can be hard.
Is that something you're looking at doing in the future? Like, how do you get your data that you're looking in higher up in the tree?
Well, getting data higher up isn't the hard part, because that's the implied, like they want their reports, they want their dashboards. It's getting the discussions and being a part of the conversation and getting their real input into what they are interested, why they are interested in it. They might say they want a certain metric, but if you're able to talk to them and find out, well, what do you want to do with this? How does this play in with the brand strategy right now and things like that, then you can build much more valuable dashboards for them.
Exactly.
But it's hard to bridge that gap and not just be the person who's, in my case, the person deploying the Google Ads tags or whatever it is that's the Jira ticket of the week, and instead have those more strategic conversations about, well, why is what we're doing valuable beyond just this small team?
Yeah. And what about from you, Elena? Your reach into the higher echelons of the brands that you deal with?
So I haven't worked with brand equity a lot. When I do speak with C-level, it's almost always CMOs. They are very interested in recognition of the brand and share of voice and to be on top of mind compared to the competitors. Going back to the workshop, what I try to do is really to understand their strategy, their way of communicating, what do they have in mind for the growth of their brand. And I try to give them gentle suggestions because I don't want to make them feel like I am taking the ground off of their feet. And yes, I guess that these are the most important topics, at least for the marketing teams at a high level, that they really want to investigate upon.
Yeah, no, that sounds interesting. Robert, from your point of view, the word brand equity and reaching that in the upper shelves.
Reaching the C level is actually can be hard if we are talking from the perspective of small agencies or solo consultants. Sometimes we are not able to reach them. That's why I love go to conferences or showing media. Then they'll say, oh, here's a guy from TV, we trust him, we'll hire him. Sometimes it is hard to approach the C-level and explain actually which metrics they can use for brand equity. But CMOs can be a channel that can move us further. And I am, on one side, I'm grateful for GA4 that they introduced the comparison metrics recently, that you can compare your brand with other brands. On the other side, that's totally lousy because I always tell them like a Buddhistic approach. You compare yourself to yourselves, not to others. You need to be better than yourself yesterday in order to grow and in order to, I don't know, sell the company. But then again, these kind of metrics, which are rather new, can help them figure out where they are and then starting ask us, okay, how can we, I don't know, push this metric, go further, and maybe then we will have more revenue. But workshops, education, it's always the key because clients are 90% they are 90% the situation they are choosing the wrong metric that they think they'll help them grow. Like we should increase the basket size and then we'll have more revenue. Maybe not. Let's do work on this. So ongoing process as always.
Yeah. And like on basket size and campaigns, we often see like this whole rise of like performance marketing, and I think that's probably your space. What we often see on a counter argument is that performance marketing can have a negative effect on a brand. Is there a way that you can communicate that to an organisation if they are over promoting a product or a brand? Jenn, in your...
I don't know. Robert's something to say here.
Yeah. Really good question. I usually tell that on my workshop that we can do a ton of things. If we just rely on figures, numbers, and charts, that everybody then will just sell guns, drugs, and I don't know, murders or whatever. So it is the duty of a brand manager is actually to correct all those flaws on the brand manager has to have answers that we will ask them. Okay, is it okay to paint this red or to put this ad or whatever? The brand manager should navigate that. While brand managers, usually they just think, okay, well, let's see the numbers and then we will figure out. They don't understand that in digital world, it is, you can change the brand strategy and navigation pretty fast, or you can screw that up pretty fast if you just rely on numbers and if you don't understand what your brand actually is, the value, the strategy, and whatever. So communicating data, figures, and charts that we report them, communicate that with some insights and at least just talk to brand managers on, okay, what now with this? And how can we use that for improving your brand recognition, whatever, maybe is the key. There's no straight answer, but always to try to explain the brand managers, CMOs, or whatever, what are we actually providing them? Most of marketeers, most of performance marketeers here are just, let's say, reporting squirrel. They can easily set up things, they can do great campaigns, and then they just, or us, we just provide the report with no words other than titles of charts. So we just provide them reports like, it's all there. There you have it. No, look at it. And people from marketing space actually don't understand what they are getting. They are taking wrong decisions based on that. So I think that having us consultants as some middle layer between that data reports and brand and
well, this is the
decisions,
whole data literacy discussion, right? And insights.
And clients are data literate. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Our job is to make them understand what are we actually working here.
Yeah.
It is tough, but that's what we are for as a consultant.
Yeah, and from your side, Elena, your experience with reporting on performance data versus branding,
When it comes to C-level, I accept them being data illiterate if they want to be, because they don't have time for that. So I just try to give them the big facts. And what I like to use, I'd say it's MMM, so showing the incrementality of your activities, because that kind of evidence it speaks loud. And also, I love using social listening and sentiment analysis. It offers a great way to look at what the competition is doing or how your user base feels about your product and your brand, not necessarily under terms of comparison with other brands, but also to get inspired of what worked for them. And when I'm thinking social listening and sentiment analysis, I'm talking not only on what happens on your own website and the reviews that you get there, but also really genuine and spontaneous opinions of people about your campaigns, organic or not.
Qualitative data, yeah?
Oh, and qualitative research too.
Yeah.
So, you know, interviews, focus groups. I think those are really important to examine too.
Yeah. Jen, a question for you. I mean, the people that you're in day-to-day contact with, I mean, you're working hard with the data and stuff. If you could change something or give insights, first explain who are your main stakeholders, I suppose, and you don't have to mention their names. But what is it that you wish they were educated in terms of increasing their data literacy?
Oh, goodness.
Where do we begin?
Right. Well, honestly, I think I was still thinking on that last question, because you had hinted at as performance marketing, it's not always going to be the right thing to be focusing on.
Well, you can also answer as well.
It's all part of the same thing, though. I think that, to me, one of the biggest problems with the folks I work with, which are primarily like directly with the web analysts, the product experience analyst types, optimization teams, and all of that, that a lot of the time it feels like folks are going through the motions of this is what an org our size should be doing. We will have this tool, this tool, this tool, and not regularly checking in on their whole stack and saying, like, are we actually getting value out of these? Are these answering the questions we want? Are we keeping them around just because they have the potential to be valuable that we hope we will achieve someday? And what ends up happening is resources get spread too thin, trying to support too many different tools, be experts in too many things. And instead of having someone who is very literate in the quality set of data that they have, we have people who are kind of jacks of all trades and trying to be the sentiment analysis person, as well as the marketing attribution expert, as well as, it's very hard to do all at once. And I see a lot of, I suppose, wasted effort, I think, because people are not focusing on the value that's derived, but rather on these are the things that could be delivering value that we feel like we should be doing. Therefore, we're going to be experts of everything and spread resources. That was not at all a direct answer to your question.
No, but it does bring on other thoughts. I mean, especially the topic of value, because value is not necessarily revenue or profit.
Right.
Value is the perception of your customers, of your potential customers, and how do you identify it, and how do you measure it? So yeah. So I mean, Robert, I'll throw the question to you. If there's something that you wish your main customers could do or think differently if you had the CEO in a lift and you had the 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm thinking that even customer lifetime value is still kind of struggle for many clients. So, okay, maybe for e-commerce that's easy, but as I said, I'm trying to push some other metrics that we're not even thinking about. Like, as I said, weekly retention rate of users, which for, publishers can be interesting. They're always looking for how many users we had in the month. So that's focus, in a month. And why, if I'm adding users from January, February, March, why they are not summed together? There's some problems with GA4. I'm crazy on that. And then I try to refocus them on some other metrics that I totally don't understand or haven't thought about, and then they're trying to match that with the brand. That usually helps, just to switch their focus to something and to start them think of their brands in terms of maybe figures and data and so on. So the value for them, I'm looking more for value for us, or what are our values for brands or CMOs in such case, is to make them understand all those not understandable charts and data and figures and everything, which they actually hate most of the time, are afraid of most of the time.
And you did mention like customer lifetime value, such a simple concept, but it just changes the value rather from an immediacy to a lifetime. You know, but it's
sometimes, I don't know, for e-commerce clients, they have, I don't know, weekend campaigns. So if they don't see the immediate revenue on Monday, then they think that the whole weekend campaign failed. While on the other hand, I see that the time, the amount of days from the first touch point to the purchase is on average 20 days, then your weekend campaigns actually are not a part of the strategy, or you're doing something wrong. So, yeah, there are a ton of metrics. I usually say in my workshops that there are 160 or 180 metrics in GA4 and 160 dimensions in GA4, and you are using just 2. So let's try to find some other metrics there that maybe could fit your need.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like, you know, we're talking about success metrics, but often what we're missing is failure metrics, right? And we can actually gather more insights from the failures than our successes,
Users, as a metric, user, always failure. If you focus on users as a metric, that's always a failure.
Exactly. Elena, I suppose this is the final question. What's your thoughts if you were to be able to change something in your clients, if you had them trapped in an elevator and you could really tell them what you think, and your boss wasn't around either?
So many things come to mind, but...
Legal, please.
Yeah. I will try to keep it to 2. One is to look at the bigger context. Just to make an example, if you're looking at percentages, like let's say conversion rate, also look at the absolute values. I had people bragging about, 4 ROI, but then it was over 3 transactions. It doesn't mean any, if the absolute value, it's really small, maybe you had a great campaign that had a very high ROI, but then on the big scheme of things, it really didn't have a big impact. So it's important to take everything into context. But more importantly, I guess it's to give the right incentives to be innovative and look at the wealth of the old brand, because each team, let's say it's evaluated on few metrics, and they don't care about what the other teams are doing and whether what they're doing has a negative impact. Like, for instance, a marketing team could be sort of fixated on impressions, but then the conversion, the click-through rate is very small, and they use takeover ads. Then, of course, the users are going to see it. They're probably also going to be upset about it because they wanted to scroll through the New York Times or whatever, but they have this big takeover instead. So okay, they saw your, they saw your campaign, and maybe they even clicked on it. But were they really interested? And
it was the intent there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I try to make them think as investigators, like take a step back from the numbers. What is your main goal? Is for your, let's say, user to be engaged as a person. What do you think it's a clue that will, evidence that will tell you that the user is actually engaged? And after we had that conversation, then we can think about the right metric.
Fantastic. We're actually right out of time. Jenn, I would have loved to have, and just as we're heating up, but thank you all for joining this discussion, and thanks for jumping out of your comfort zone as well, I think. Thanks. Maybe dancing in your comfort zone. Depends on who it is. But yeah, thank you. Thank you again from Super Week TV. Don't forget to follow Super Week on LinkedIn, and isn't it on X as well? And keep your eye on the programs coming up. Lots more great stuff from Fosca and Rick. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.